It is my absolute honor to invite two of my good friends and collaborators, Bence Ivancic of the Gold Mass Society, as well as Patrick Bonney, CEO of the Royal House of Medici's M1563.
Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. So my name is Bence Ivancic. I'm one of the founders of the Gold Mass Society, which is a fractionalized NFT project centered around the 3,000-year-old Greek gold mass from the Agamemnon era. On the planet, there's only 5 of these pieces, 4 in the Museum of Athens, 1 in private hands, and that's the one what we are fractionalizing and bringing to market. And Patrick, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And I think where we align is the cultural conservation part. And yeah, it's a pleasure to have this conversation.
My name is Patrick Bonney. I'm the CEO, co-founder of the Royal House of Medici Holdings. Yes, Benz, it's a great pleasure to share the stage with you. NRVLD, thank you very much. Pavan, Uzo, for the opportunity.
So what's really interesting for me, Patrick, is how the different eras are lining up over here. And as we're bringing in a 3,000-year-old piece, and as we're talking about, history and the connection points in history, it's just really interesting how you guys are actually stepping in another era so we can continue the whole meaning and the whole, incentive behind how culture can be attached to these days.
That's right. So, the interesting intersection that we share is the curation and kind of transition, if you will, of historical tradition, both philosophical, intellectual, artistic expression. And let's face it, we're all on this earth for a very short period of time. But when we can intersect our lives with legacy, families, and histories and traditions that are very meaningful, that's a
I perfectly agree with you, especially, as our headline is "Be the part of the future with history." So I truly believe that we need to, take a position in the market where we're educating, these platforms and the whole Web 3.0 community, how they can be involved in actual assets which bring this kind of cultural touch points to the market. And what's really interesting for me is that, and I'm pretty curious what you think, Patrick. So our main approach is we are approaching the project as all these, projects and everything what's out there is just a technological barrier and a technological opportunity for all of us to be integrated into this world where we are coming from. And what I think is that, let's call them underlying assets, what we have, in our pool, could be, what do you think? Could there be more valuable than a traditional NFT project? Or how do you see that part of the whole approach?
Quite honestly, NFT and blockchain is just a tool.
Agree.
What we, I think, share and have in common is we both are a part of legacy traditions that are, a higher ground, right? The Medici name is synonymous with the Renaissance, with Michelangelo, with Leonardo. I don't know how many of you may have seen the Netflix series on the Medici, but that's a bit of a window on the family and during the Renaissance. But they are patrons of the arts, and we are curators of that tradition. And it spans a philosophical tradition, an intellectual tradition of a humanism, philosophy, all of this, and artistic expressions.
Yeah, it's really interesting as you guys are approaching the market from the community point of view when you're curating artists and bringing all these folks together. It's really interesting for me as, we are focusing on one piece, right? And we try to bring that to the market. So I think that's another interesting combination over here, that you're curating people, we're creating the piece, and, there's a really understandable meet in the middle, so.
Well, Vasari, during the Renaissance, when he wrote about the great masters of the Renaissance, he spoke of their dignity and nobility through their commitment to their craft. And this is a wonderful thing to recognize that there is nobility and dignity in that commitment. It takes a significant amount of dedication and commitment to create these artworks.
And how you guys try to curate the community? So is it like how we're doing it, like it's a closed society kind of style, or anyone can join if they're an artist or if they just resonating with the like whole Medici incentive?
Yeah, being the first, this first Genesis, if you will, exhibition drop, we have curated these artists, if you will. We have invited them and to do this based on the work that they have done in the past. But going forward, we are going to open ourselves to a much wider audience, and we invite contemporary artists to this. But Bence, let me ask you. So, because you're a curator of a 2,500-year-old Grecian mask.
Yes.
This is quite extraordinary. Tell us a little bit about that and what the philosophical underpinning of that is.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. So as I mentioned at the beginning, the mask is 3,000 year old, and there's only 5 on the planet. And the interesting thing is that it's not just coming from the era of Agamemnon, but the whole story behind it, the cultural story is for me, it's amazing because it was a mask for funerals, and it was representing knowledge and representing people. So we are lucky enough that our owner is seeing this piece as something which can be brought back to the communities through the technologies what we're using. So as a fractionalized ownership, he truly believes that this is the right way to go. And, he's been approached by museums in the past. He's been approached by individuals who wanted to buy the mask. But he's dedicated to this mission to literally have this as something offered for the people.
And it's of Greek origins, is that right?
Sorry?
It's of Greek origins?
It's Greek origins, yes.
And the fascinating thing here is that it's the fall of Constantinople and the exodus of that literary society and intellectuals to Florence and Venice, which begot the Renaissance.
Yeah.
And the roots of that philosophical thought goes back to those days. Plutarch,
exactly.
Plato, Aristotle, all of this basically originated in that period.
I agree with you. And the other interesting thing about the piece is that I will not mention the name of the museum, but in France, a museum did a valuation of the piece, and they said that the purity of the gold is 85%. And then a couple of years later, a university did another research, and it came out that the purity of the gold is 98%, which means that compared to the gold what you can have right now on the market, this is much more higher purity. So the owner explained it to me that if you're touching the piece, you feel like you're touching chocolate, because the gold is just so pure that it's almost melting in your hands.
Yeah, it's extraordinary to come into contact with artifacts of such great significance, and so tell me about the mask in terms of its meaning and if you will, philosophical.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it was a mask for funerals. The 2 eyes represents the sun and the moon. So this is how, you find the balance through the knowledge and these incentives. And the other interesting thing is that what I mentioned to you earlier, I think that the mask is sitting in a vault in Switzerland since 25 years. Means that it missed the whole internet era. So there's no digital footprint, not even about the picture of the mask itself. Means that I think regarding its valuation, as we're bringing it to the market, the only way is up. And on the other hand, what I'm always mentioning is that besides the whole NFT play, I truly believe that when it comes to the metaverses, as one of the most recognizable shapes for a human being is another human being's face. When it comes to a wearable asset, we're just on the right track with the piece. So, yeah, and I think the other interesting thing and important thing what I would like to mention is that for us, for the Gold Mask Society, this is actually the first public chance to talk about the piece, talk about the mask, talk about the whole project. And we're heavily planning to do an activation next year, actually on the island of Malta, which is, I think, really important for both of us, as thanks to NRVLD, one of our main intention is to bring the brand here and do a similar activation and show it to the world on European grounds what we can do with this kind of approaches.
Yes, we're excited about that. Malta is a fascinating location for us to do that. The Cosimo de' Medici, who, by the way, is the first Grand Duke of Tuscany, 1563 represents the year that he created the Academy of Arts. In 1561, he created an order of knighthood called the Order of San Stefan, which went on to fight and defend Malta and defend the coastline, etc. So, it's a historic location for these traditions that go back centuries.
And Malta was always like a nice heating pot for different cultures and this kind of thing. So I truly believe that will be a really interesting activation for both of us. Yeah. Okay. So I think from my side, the other most important thing is please check out our piece in the Medici Room too. Check the QR. Please sign up to the project, and thank you so much for your time.